Welcome to another episode of Dad Up, everyone. Thank you guys very much for joining me. This is another episode of Where Are They Now? I have my good friend Ira Davis on the show, and he and I got a chance to connect way back in 2021. And I had him on my show, and he and I have really, we've been pretty good friends over the last 4 or 5 years. And even though we've never met, he's like, it seems like you're just a couple blocks from me, even though you're, a few cities over. But he and I are going to get a chance to meet one of these days, and we're going to break some bread together. But I wanted to do a recap to see where he is, what he's up to, what he's doing. He and I have some similar backgrounds as far as, we have our businesses, and then we also have our experience in the military, where he's a drill instructor in the Marine Corps, and I spent time in the Marines and hated drill instructors. But he and I are going to kind of dive back into all that. But hey, man, welcome to the show, Ira. Thanks for being on again.
Bryan, man, what a pleasure to be back with you, man. And let me tell you what, I've been watching you from afar. You have been killing it, inspiring dads around the world, around the country, man. So it's an honor to be back on with you, bro.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate that so much. Well, you were on episode 82. And for those of you that may not know who Ira is or want to learn a little bit more about him, you need to go back and watch episode, or listen, I should say, because I wasn't even doing video back then. Go back and listen to episode 82. I'll make sure that link is in my show notes, but go back and listen to episode 82 before you watch this one, because this is just kind of a recap to see what he's up to now, how his family's doing, how his boys are doing. And I'm really excited to dive into all that. So if you get confused by this episode, it's because you didn't listen to the first one. So go back and listen to the first one before you watch this one. All right. So that's a disclaimer up front. Well, let's dive into it, my man. Let's dive into it real quick. I know you got the DREAMDIVER Company. I know you're still doing your public speaking. I mean, your speaking engagements and all that kind of stuff. And you do the skydiving with them and all that. I mean, it's so cool that you do all that stuff. But let's dive in and see how you're doing. What's going on, man? What's up with you?
Man, look, God has been good. Life has been good. I have no complaints, man. As you know, my family has expanded here in the last 6 months. Excuse me. My wife and I did a crazy thing, like starting all over again. So I have a 16-year-old boy, a 13-year-old boy, and I have a 6-month-old boy. And so here we are back at the genesis of it all. And so that has just been a whirlwind trying to figure out, Bryan, I'm like, do they make USB bottles now? Like battery charged LED diapers? Like, I don't even know. It's been so long since I've been on the baby hour, man. So it's just been a crazy thing falling in love with my family all over again, man. And so, that's on the family side. Business side has just been great, man. Just exploding in ideas and exploration and architecting how we do what we do for who we do it for in a way, man, that just will bring about some of the most unique transformation in the world, man. So everything's been great, bro.
Yeah, and now when it comes to before we dive into your family a little bit, because I do want to before we dream dive into your family. How about that? Do you like how I threw that in there?
I love that.
Before we do that, let's talk a little bit about Dream Diver, because I know, obviously you've been doing it now for a while, and I know it really helps people really elevate their life in all kinds of facets. But what I love about it is, for those of you guys that don't know about Dream Diver, he goes on these. Well, I'll let you talk about it, because you actually take people out and you skydive, and I've skydived before. I love it. It's freaking exhilarating. It's phenomenal. But let's talk about that a little bit, because it's awesome that you do that.
Yeah, man. So, Bryan, you alluded to it. I was a United States Marine Corps drill instructor. I was in the Corps for about 10 years. Right around my 10-year mark, my career kind of fell apart. And I was desperate, man, searching for what I would do next. The Marine Corps was like, "Hey, bro, thanks for playing, but you're no longer perfect. We're looking for perfect people." And so I had 3 months to pack my bags. My family at the time, my boys were like little, under the age of 6, and figure out what I was going to do with the rest of my life. So as a husband, as a father, young husband, young father, depression kicked in. Right? You guys know what I'm talking about if you listen to this. Like, what do I do to take care of my family when the job that I had was providing consistently? It provided health care, it provided benefits, it was prestigious. Then all of a sudden, thin air, it just kind of disappeared. And so I made my way to therapy, Bryan, which is taboo for a Marine, for a man,
Right.
for African American man, for a father, for a military service member. It's just therapy is just taboo for men, period. I don't care where you are in the world on the spectrum. And so through that therapy session, and I'm a praying man, and through prayer, I realized, man, that God was actually setting me up to do something greater with the rest of my life than what I had settled for in the Marine Corps. So the Marine Corps was a launching pad for me. And literally through my faith lens, I believe that God was saying to me that I want you to be a drill instructor for the rest of the world. I want you to bring transformation to other people in a greater capacity. And so that's what I ended up doing with the rest of my life. So we created this company called the Dream Diver Company. And right as I was getting out, I had this collision course with this skydiving video at 2 o'clock in the morning, Brian,
Huh.
where I was looking to put some inspirational videos in a PowerPoint as an icebreaker for young Marine corporals who was the first level of leadership in the Marine Corps, just to inspire them as I trained them to be the best of the best. As I was getting kind of ushered out of the door, I was asked to train leaders, which is the greatest paradox you could ever imagine, right? And so 2 a.m. collision course with the skydiving video just blew my breath away. And I just heard God say to me, hey, you see skydiving, but I want you to call it dream diving. And I want you to teach pioneers, visionaries, innovators, and disruptors how to go after the greatest calling of their lives. And I want you to build extreme faith on the inside of them and help them architect audacious vision to build enterprises based on their calling for their life that will change the face of the planet. But in order to do that for these pioneers, visionaries, innovators, and disruptors, because they're building what the world has never seen, they need a different level of faith. They need a different level of courage in order to pioneer something that most people say are crazy. Most people say it's impossible. And so, if you're going to help them do the impossible, I want you to baptize them in the impossible. I want you to baptize them in faith. And so, we started this company called the Dream Diver Company back in 2018, 19-ish, where literally it's what I call a faith multiplying leadership development company, where we will do now these immersive live events in a theater. Is this epic, like Super Bowl type event where we inspire these legendary innovators to go to new levels. And then we do an event called 13,000 Feet where they meet me at the drop zone and we pour into them at the little skydiving drop zone. And we get on a plane and we go to 13,000 feet. And I literally baptize them in faith. We do tandems together. I meet them on the ground, we embrace. But before that, it is a one on one, deep level coaching experience on their dreams, their vision, and their calling. And then we take that to 13,000 feet, and I teach them the art of going all in and trusting God in impossible places in order to do impossible things with the rest of your life, man. So that's what I get to do at the Dream Diver Company, and I get to travel and speak around the world, pouring extreme faith and audacious vision into some of the most legendary dreamers on the planet. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I think for your family to see you go through this transformation with all these different people, especially your boys that are, they're still young, they're getting
Yeah.
older, but they're still young, and to see their dad kind of help these other people transform, I'm sure it's got to be an inspiration to them. And maybe you've seen some new life in them just in the things that you've been doing. So how about your boys? What has been the message to them through your journey of this, growing this business and helping other people expand and become better in themselves?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Whatever you do, you got to be relentless about it. Nine times out of ten, if you have a dream that's bigger than your surrounding, your circumference, or anything that your relationships or your network has ever been exposed to, they will unintentionally try to cannibalize your dreams because it
Mm-hmm.
makes them uncomfortable. It's not that they don't love you; it's that they've never seen it. So in
Mm-hmm.
actuality, you're the crazy one, not them. They're the ones thinking logical. You're the one thinking like a maniac because it is very hard for a normal person to imagine or perceive or to foresee what
Mm-hmm.
has never been seen before. And so I tell them before, man, when you get a dream or a calling or a vision that's placed in your heart, it's not for other people to validate. It's for you to build it so they can see the fruit from what you knew all along, right? So I just encourage them that when you have a colossal dream, a God-sized dream that's bigger than you have to get up every single day and go to work and build what nobody's ever seen until you can produce fruit that will back up what you've been projecting and saying all along, man. So being able to watch my boys, my oldest son, 16 years old, a phenomenal football player, man. You've probably seen him on Instagram, some of the
Yeah.
clips that I post, man. He is 5'11", 150 pounds soaking wet, Brian. And you would think that would make him an underdog. But no, he's the star receiver on his team. He's like top 30 in the state of California as a
Oh, that's
receiver at
awesome.
this point in the season. He's undersized as far as weight is concerned, but he's never done what they call holdback. in football or sports where they hold him back a year or two so they can get bigger. He's never done a holdback. He's been playing varsity football since ninth grade. And so I just remind him that as you see daddy get up in the morning and go do what most people say is impossible, so too do I want you to take that same fruit, that same passion, that same relentlessness, and take it to the thing that you feel you're called to do with your life, man. So
Yeah. And what's his dream? What's his passion? What does he want to do? Is it get into maybe college ball, playing football in college, going to the pros? Is there a different passion that he has?
yeah, no, it's a great question. No, he wants to be an NFL Hall of Famer, man. So that's what he got his eyes set on. And so I just constantly bring him back to not only watch what I do, because I want to be the blueprint for you. I want to be, you remember back in the 90s, the crash dummies from the car commercials? I
Yep.
want to be the crash dummy for you. Watch my failures and then watch how I bounce back from them.
Oh,
Watch my wins, but watch also that you don't see daddy getting complacent, right? But then also always, and he kind of hates me for this, everything is a lesson in our house, whether it's a Disney movie, a football
I don't
game,
think any kids like that.
right. Everything is a lesson. He's like, oh, here we go again. But what I want to instill in him is that you can learn something from everywhere at any time in order to project and propel your dreams, your vision, your calling to new levels. Everything is intel. Everything is intel.
Yeah, it's so true. That's so true. And I think that, even for me, when my boys were, they're adults now, but even when they were, growing up, it seemed like everything to them, they knew that it was going to be a lesson. And, a part of that's because of my experience in the Marine Corps, just having that experience of being, hey, I want to make sure every single day I'm trying to level up my game and I'm going to teach my boys
Yeah.
how to do that as well. And yeah, I mean, it's just part of being a boy. It's being a kid, right? You gotta have those parents that do that. But so your younger ones, you said 13?
Yeah, my middle one is 13.
No,
Yeah.
excuse me. That's right. You just had one. Your middle one's 13. And what is he up to?
Man, he's a phenomenal musician, self-taught drummer, drum set, snare, marching snare, and taught himself the piano, the keyboard. And so, man, he's just a phenomenal musician. From the age of 4, he never liked toys. He always was into music, and so, man, he's an eighth grader now. And so he's been playing in the symphonic band, the jazz band, and the drumline sixth to sixth grade. The only kid at the school who was invited to play in all 3 bands as a sixth grader. And so he's at the top of the pinnacle now as a eighth grader, and now he's getting ready to go do what he really is passionate about, which is finally being able to march in high school.
That's cool.
And so his dream is to go to an historically black college in his college years because typically they just have some of the baddest bands around. And so he wants to go be a snare player in a band in college, man. So, but he's also an athlete, so he's dusting that off. He grew up playing flag football like his older brother, and now he's getting back into it in his eighth grade year, man. And so now I'm just trying to balance him out. Like he's like,
Right.
no, I want all football now. I don't want any more music. I'm like, no, we've come too far.
Right.
Um, yeah, right. Your dream is still here. So just helping him understand that even though it may not be fun yet, because you're not at that high school marching level yet, every single time you pick up a stick, every single time you pick up a piece of sheet music, it is reps and sets for your ultimate dream, right? So it may
Mhm.
not be the thing, but it's reps and sets. So we got to keep working the muscle until you actually get to where you want to be. And so that's just been fun and incredible watching him grow.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Well, I mean, hey, you got boys that have different interests, but now your younger ones wanting to get back into a little bit of football. I don't see anything wrong with that. But like you said, I mean, hey, he is really talented as a musician, as
Yeah.
doing what he loves or what he's done for a while, teaching himself those kinds of things. That's a hard task to do, and the fact that he's done it, that's something that he really shouldn't set down just yet. Keep encouraging that side of that talent in him because that may transpire into something into high school. And as for football, just so you know, friend to friend, because you're a good friend of mine, I am friends with a guy by the name of Mark Clayton who used to play for the Baltimore Ravens. And
Wow.
on top of that, he didn't even become a varsity football player until he was a senior in high school, yet he made it to the pros and played several years for the Baltimore Ravens. So if your boys have
Wow.
any interest in learning what it takes to get to that level, I can definitely link you up with Mark, and you can maybe chat with him and get and pick his brain a little bit to see what it would really take for your boys to get to that level if that's what they choose to do. But anyways, that's a
Man.
little sidebar. So I'll let you know that. So let's dive into it because there's something that I really want to talk to you about as well. And I know that you and I kind of talked about this a little bit offline last week, but you're a brand new dad again. And what
Yes.
a joy that is. The fact that you went from the Marine Corps, the Lord said, listen, I've got another direction for your life that I want you to go, and you're going to follow my lead. You followed his lead, and now here you are making this company, Dream Diver Company, a success and doing the things, helping other people become better in their life. And then the Lord threw in another twist and said, hey, brother, I want you to go just a slight different direction. I'm going to give you another challenge because I know you can handle it. No one gives it. God does not give us any challenges we cannot handle. And
That's
he
right.
threw another challenge in your life. And I asked your permission to talk to you about this topic because I'm sure it's hard at first, but I'm sure you're a little bit more comfortable with it now. But you've been given this chance to be a dad again. And the moment came when your wife said, we're going to be parents again. And that excitement set in. And then you go to the doctor and you find out, you know what, there's going to be a little bit of complications with this one, but he's still going to be a blessing. He's still going to be a joy in your life. And I want you to cherish it and bless it. But you had a baby and he's born with Down syndrome. And I know that was tough to face. But I have a good friend of mine who has a son who has Down syndrome. He's now, actually, his son is now an adult. And I watched this kid grow up and just thrive. And the kid is thriving now and just a really remarkable young man. His name's William, really remarkable young man. But I want you to talk about not only the joy of finding out you're going to be a dad again, but then I want you to really share the experience and the emotions that you and your wife together went through, and I can see it in your face right now, but I want you to share the joys and the emotions that you and your wife went through when you found out um, the complications that you may face being a new dad with a child that has Down syndrome.
Yeah, Brian, thank you so much for the opportunity, man, just to talk about this. And this will be my first time talking about it publicly on a podcast platform. Excuse me. Getting up to that point, man, it was an arduous journey for us. Um, when I first got out of the Marine Corps in 2014, my wife had gotten pregnant for the third time. Um, and at that time, my kids were 5 and 3. And every year since then, up until we had this baby, she had a miscarriage or two.
Mm.
So it was almost congruent with my time getting out of the Marine Corps up until now. Like I said, my kids are 16 and 13 now, and we've had a miscarriage once or twice a year for the last 10 years, to the
Mm.
tune of, I believe, 8 miscarriages in a row.
Mm.
And so
Wow.
you can imagine the roller coaster ride of being excited and then being let down, and being excited and being heartbroken, and being excited and being let down. And I go back to the very first miscarriage we ever had. I want to say my wife was maybe 2 months along or somewhere along the lines. Don't get me lying. I'm a dad, right? I don't know the specifics, man, but it was somewhere along the lines of 1 to 2 months, and um, my kids were in the room, in the hospital room, when we took her for a checkup, and they were on the other side of the curtain. And
Mm.
when we got the news that she had miscarried, and it was the most devastating thing in the world to deal with. They sent us home for her to pass um, the miscarriage at home naturally. And the crazy thing about it was, and I'm setting this up for a reason. The crazy thing about it was, the very next day was my son's birthday,
Oh.
and we had a sleepover planned at the house for him. Um, and so in one room, my wife is crying uncontrollably, and in excruciating pain, trying to pass this thing. And I'm going from that room to the other room where I'm hosting a sleepover
Mm.
for my son and his friends. And so the roller coaster of emotions as a dad and as a husband, um, it almost leaves you numb, um, because you can't bring either emotion in the wrong room in that moment. And so we would experience moments like that for the next 10 years, where she would get pregnant and it would be an amazing high, but then we would be scared out of our minds for the first however long, and then the inevitable would happen. But it would always, there's never a good time for a miscarriage,
Mhm.
right? Never a good
Right.
time. But it would always happen around the weirdest times, like Thanksgiving, right? Where it's hosted at our house and when everybody's here. Or my oldest graduating from the eighth grade, and we have family in town, right? And so at some point, we just stopped telling people
Mhm.
that she was pregnant or ended up having miscarriage because the banter and the the pity just became this thing that we were uninterested in.
Right.
And so when she finally got pregnant this last time, um, she had thrown her hands up. She
Mm.
was just like, man, I'm done with it. You know, God, I've been praying for this thing for the last 10 years. You promised that we would have a child. I don't know what's going on. Doctors are saying everything is perfect. I got the eggs of a 20-year-old. There's nothing medically wrong. Like nobody can explain any of this, what's going on. And we went to an event the week before she found out she was pregnant, and somebody had, pulled her to the side and said, "Hey, God spoke to me and said to let you know that you're getting ready to have this baby you've been praying for. I don't know you from Adam, never met you, but God showed me, and He asked me to tell you, get your faith back up because you're getting ready to have this baby you pray for." At this point, my wife is just like, "Man, I don't want to hear that. Like, whatever. It's
Right.
been 10 years. I'm
Right.
whatever." A week to the date, my wife takes a pregnancy test. Almost an hour to the exact point where the young lady told her what God had shared with her. My wife takes a pregnancy test 2 weeks early. She's not even late yet at this point. She takes one 2 weeks early. Pregnant,
Huh.
pregnant, right? So as soon as we had thrown our hands up and said, man, forget this, my wife comes up pregnant. And so, of course, we're happy, but not too happy. She starts going to the appointments. Um, we get past a certain threshold that we haven't made it past in 10 years. And so we're, fingers crossed. And then she does the blood test, and the blood test comes back, and they say, hey, you're testing in the 98th percentile for your baby having Down syndrome.
Mm.
And you can imagine our hearts drop. We don't know anything about Down syndrome. We don't know anything about special needs. We don't know anything about that. Um, and God, why would you add another complication on top of what finally looked like the thing we prayed for?
Right.
So, man, we're a family of faith, and so we just prayed. We prayed and said, God, we don't know what you're doing here, but we know you're in control. And we just prayed and prayed, and we didn't talk about it much. Every now and then, we would, there'd be an elephant in the room, Bryan, and we would bring it up, and we would just say, Hey, man, there's no way God wouldn't bring us this far for this to happen. So, we just kept believing by faith, man, and lo and behold, she has the baby in March, and baby comes out, and you could slightly tell a little bit in his facial features a little bit, but they tested his core blood, and sure enough, it came back positive for Down syndrome. And we didn't speak much on it while we were in the hospital for 2 or 3 days. We didn't speak much on it. Just loved on him. We're excited, and they released us from the hospital to go home. And I remember we pulled out of the parking lot, got to maybe the second or third red light, and my wife was in the back seat with the baby in the car seat, and I just break down crying at the stoplight,
Mhm.
like not just crying but weeping, sobbing, um, and just banging on the steering wheel uncontrollably. And my wife was like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I'm pissed off at God.
Mhm.
Pissed off at God. After all we've been through, why would He let this happen?" And so I'm crying, man. About 32 and a half seconds. I know this to the T. I'll never forget. 32 and a half seconds. My wife says, "It's gonna be fine." Um, God knew exactly what He was doing. And this is our miracle baby, and He's going to do the impossible. And it was at that moment, 32 and a half seconds, man, I wiped my face, and we made a decision from that point forward that this was not an accident. This was intentional. God chose this family.
Mhm.
We are a family of faith. We teach people faith. That's what I do for a living at the Dream Diver Company. I teach
Right.
people extreme faith to do the impossible. My wife has had to live an extreme faith journey for the last 10 years, believing for a miracle and a blessing that seemed like it was out of reach. We teach my oldest son, undersized, starting athlete for four. We teach faith. My youngest doing things that my middle child doing things in music that weren't. We teach faith as a family. And so what dawned on me in that moment was you teach faith for a family. So why not give you another opportunity to work your faith to be an example for the world of what God can do in a family, in people, in marriage, in fathers, in siblings that have extreme faith that God can do the impossible in improbable situations. This is your miracle child. He will do impossible things. And that's why he had to be born to this family. And so, man, it was in that moment where I had an epiphany that rocked my world as a husband and as a father, Bryan. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, I want to say thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing it on a, essentially a public forum like this. I know that when you guys had your child, what's his name, by the way?
Dekai Nasai Davis.
Dekai. All right, that's an awesome name.
Yeah.
But I know that you, like you said, you didn't speak about it for a while, and it caught my attention when you had posted about it, and I thought, wow, I had no clue, that this was a journey that you were about to face, and here we are talking about it. So, first of all, congratulations to you and your
Thank you, man.
wife, to you and your family. It's amazing. It's a blessing. It's a miracle. And I know it may not be exactly what you had envisioned. God envisioned it for you
Yeah.
and knew
Yeah.
exactly what he was doing. And like you said, I loved how you put it. He wanted the perfect family for this little guy, and he found him. And
Yeah.
you've been given that blessing. And I am excited to see what happens with Dakai and how far he goes and the journey that he's on. But I know he's got two amazing parents that are going to help him along the way, make his dreams come true. And he's got two older brothers that are, excuse my language, that are kick ass and are going to help him grow and develop and be the man that he wants to be and needs to be. So I congratulate you, man. I think it's phenomenal. I think it's a beautiful thing. And as tough as it may be, I think it's beautiful. I really do. And I'm excited for it. So thank you for sharing that journey with
Yeah.
us and my audience. Let me ask you one question before, because I want to let you go. I want to be respectful of your time, but let me ask you one question before I do. And that is with it, when it comes to this happening in your guys' life, and if you could speak life into other parents that may be about to go on to this journey or may have just found out this is going to happen, this is going to be your situation, what would those words of inspiration be? What would those words of advice be to those parents that may be like, we don't know what to do. We have no idea how this has happened, why we're going through this, what to do. Um, and they're listening, they're watching this right now, and they say, Ira's doing it. What are you doing, man? And what words would you give to those parents?
And I love that question. That's the first time I've ever been asked that question around this situation. I'll say this, man, love conquers all.
Mm.
There's not a situation, there's not a prognosis or a diagnosis that unconditional love cannot cover and or saturate any situation in. Um, the Kai has been the biggest blessing in my entire life. He's already defeating the odds. You, by looking at him, you would not even know if I didn't tell you he had Down syndrome. Most people don't know. You cannot tell by looking at him. And so I would just encourage you to love whatever God has placed in your hands, to love whatever God has placed in your lap, because you were chosen to steward it. You were chosen to raise it up. You were chosen out of all people, man, to mold, mentor, and guide someone who has a real life, real emotions, who can make a real impact in the world. And so I'm going to tell you right now, when we look at our son, we don't look at him with pity, and we don't pray for healing because he's not broken.
Right.
We pray for stamina to keep up with him as he does the impossible, right? And so how you look at your situation or your special needs child or however you want to classify what you're going through or about to go through, they will glean off of the love and the twinkle in your eye that they see when you look at them. And so if you look at them with pity, that's how they'll show up in life. But if you look at them like a giant who can do impossible things, that is how they will level up, and that is how they will live their life based off of what you impart and invest into them by way of your language, your love, and even how you look at them will determine who they can become. So that's my advice to any dad, any mom, any parent listening to this today. Love conquers all of it.
Oh, that's awesome. Amen to that. Thank you very much for sharing that. I totally agree. It's all about perspective and how we look at things, right? I hear dad say all the time, oh, I got to take my kid to his practice. I got to take my kid to his music lesson. I got to take my kid to his acting lessons. No, you ain't got to do that stuff. You get to do that
Come on.
stuff. It's a
Right.
blessing, right? You get to do those things. So the same thing, it's like with your son. Why is this happening to us? Why did this happen to us? Why not? Why
That's it.
not? And so for you guys and for any other parents that are out there that may be going through whatever the challenge is with your kids, it doesn't have to necessarily be a special needs issue. It could be some other challenge you may be facing, but it's there for a reason. So conquer it, appreciate it, use it as a blessing, use it as a learning tool, use it as a stepping stone to that next phase of your life and help your child. That's why God put them in your lap. They are loaned to you. They are his children given to you on loan, and he wants you to raise them up the way that he thinks is fit. And so you need to make sure you follow that and make sure you help them out. And yeah, I mean, for you, man, it's just a blessing. It's so awesome. And yeah, any parents out there, you know what? For Ira, he's just now on this first stepping stone of this journey, this exciting journey he and his wife are about to go on. And I'm excited for his family. But if you have questions about it, you have questions about, maybe you're just confused, maybe you're scared, maybe you just need support. He's on Instagram. You can reach out to him. He will definitely get back to you. Or maybe you have advice for him. Maybe you're further along in your journey and you have some tips that you want to provide he and his wife to help them along in their journey. Do that as well. But Ira, my man, thank you very much for being on, brother. I'm so glad we've become friends over the last several years. And dude, we need to make it happen, man. We need to meet. What the heck are we doing? Right.
I know. I know.
But thank you very much for being on. I love you and your wife, you and your family. You guys are awesome. And I'm really excited about this next phase of your guys' journey you're about to be on. But thanks for being on, my man. Appreciate it.
Bryan, thanks for having me, man. Thank you for what you're doing for me and dads and fathers around the world, man. There aren't many safe places
Oh, I
for us
appreciate
to
that.
come get refueled and refreshed, man. And so thank you for creating this ecosystem for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate that. You know what? It's something that I really am passionate about, something I enjoy doing. And, one of the most exciting things for me is I'm still learning. Even as a dad that's been a dad now, my older son's 25. I've been a dad now for 25 years. And even though I've been on this dad journey for a while, I'm still learning. I'm still making mistakes to this day, Ira. I'm still making dad mistakes to this day, but I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I'm still developing. And that's one of the things that I love most about doing the podcast is meeting guys like you where I can learn from and grow from and get better as a dad and a human being, as a husband, as a father myself. So guys, listen, my good friend Ira Davis, all his links are in my show notes. Please check him out. Please go to his website. Please go to his Instagram page. You can check out all his stuff that he's doing. Any event. Hey, do you have any upcoming events? I should ask that.
Man, we're working on some stuff for 2025. So go to the website, join our text list, and we're going to be doing some in-person immersive live events in the Southern California region in 2025, kind of on a round robin tour style, man. So you don't want to miss that.
Cool. Well, I'll make sure that your website's in the show notes, guys. Make sure you check it out, see what events he's got coming up in this next year. And who knows, maybe you'll even see me there. We just might make it happen. So make sure you guys are doing that. And listen, if you are not yet subscribed to my show, please make sure you do that so you don't miss any of the awesome guests that I have on each and every week. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode of Dad Up. Wow, another amazing episode in the books. So much was shared, and I'm truly grateful my guest was able to pour into you to help you elevate your dad game and really dad up. Make sure you bang that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're here, please don't forget to leave me a rating and a review. I always appreciate the feedback. And one last thing, don't forget, your role as a dad is one of the most important roles you have.
So if you need a little help or have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my website at daduptribe.com or at my Instagram page at daduppodcast. Until next time, everyone, dad up.